And we've got more now on the Defense Department's plans to shut down the Joint Forces Command in Norfolk, Virginia. That facility employs 5,000 workers. The Pentagon is trying to cut use of outside contractors by 10% next year to shave $100 billion off the budget over the next 5 years. Joining us now is Representative Gerry Connolly of Virginia, who says the plan is deeply flawed and could have an extremely negative impact on many of his constituents. Thanks for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Good to see you. Let me first ask this. This seemed to me to come out of nowhere. Was this a surprise to you and others?
Absolutely. Yeah, I got no advance notice, and neither did my colleagues, as far as I know, in terms of the Secretary's plans.
The Secretary has proposed closing U.S. Joint Forces Command. This is in the Hampton Roads area. 5,000 to 6,000 people could be directly affected there, lose their jobs. How could it affect our region in Northern Virginia?
Well, the economy of Northern Virginia really took off, beginning with the outsourcing that began under President Reagan and accelerated under President Clinton. And hundreds of thousands of jobs, frankly, are related directly or indirectly to federal investments. And the defense sector, of course, being the largest single federal agency, dominates that market. So we could be profoundly affected by a 10% reduction every year for 3 years.
Mm-hmm. You've said that the plan is somewhat nonsensical, and you say part of the reason for that is because of the specific work that some of these contractors do. Can you explain that for us?
Well, I applaud the Secretary for looking for internal savings in the Pentagon. He should be doing that. That's the proper thing. But to accept an arbitrary cap, we're going to take 10% of what's now contracted out and bring it in every year for 3 years, a 30% retraction, is an arbitrary and capricious number based on nothing. And who knows what kind of disruption and dislocation that could cause. And the Secretary himself has already said he's disappointed with the savings that were not effectuated by the insourcing that's already occurred. So we're going to do more of it, a lot more of it.
Now, what about those who say, well, I mean, and you praise his efforts to look for places to cut spending. You know, some say, well, we got to cut it somewhere. Why not here?
Well, generally when we say we're going to do something across the board, it means we've given up on actually taking out the paring knife and looking at specific programs. And it's kind of an easy and cheap way to do something and hope for the best. I don't think that's a good way to manage the Pentagon or to manage savings in the federal budget.
Some of the, you know, over the years, we've had all these contractors who come up and do a lot of this work, and there have been reasons for that over the years. Some of the work that contractors do, can it not be done by the government or not done efficiently?
Absolutely. In fact, you know, there's a whole debate about what is inherently governmental, and there are functions that are inherently governmental and are being brought back into the federal government and should be. We went too far the other way during the Bush years. But I fear that a 30% contraction, just arbitrarily deciding that's going to be the number, goes too much in the other direction. And I don't think it's a thoughtful approach at all. And let's remember, a lot of these federal contractors were encouraged by the same federal government to develop a lot of domain expertise that we need. And rebuilding it within the federal government is not an easy job. And that's one more other point that I think we need to make. You're looking for cost savings, but if you're going to contract, that is to say, retract in the private sector, that means you have to grow in the public sector, and that means a bigger federal government. And I don't know that that's an efficient way of doing business.
My understanding is that with these proposals, they don't need congressional approval. He doesn't need congressional approval for these. He has proposed it. Do you think you and your colleagues can have any influence over what is ultimately done?
I am today asking our committee, the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, to hold hearings on this as soon as we come back in September. I think Congress has an absolute obligation in its oversight role to go delve much more in depth in terms of what's the thinking and what's the analysis that went behind these decisions.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing more from you on that, and of course we'll cover whatever happens after that.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. Thanks.
My great pleasure.
Yeah.